The first time I saw the woman in room 7, she was folding a man's sweater against her chest like it was something alive. I remember the pale blue hospital light. I remember the rain sliding down the window behind her. And I remember the ring on her finger because it looked exactly like mine. Not similar, not close, exactly the same. My name is Hannah Miller. I was 36 years old then, and by most people's standards, my life looked steady. I lived in a small brick house outside Columbus, Ohio, with my husband Aaron and our 12-year-old daughter, Sophie. Our house was not fancy, but it had a porch swing that creaked in the summer, a narrow kitchen filled with school papers and grocery lists, and a backyard where Sophie used to practice soccer until the grass near the fence wore thin. I worked as a billing coordinator at a physical therapy clinic. It was ordinary work, full of insurance codes, appointment calendars, and patients who came in limping and left a little less afraid of their own bodies. I liked being useful. I liked knowing where things belonged. Aaron worked as a regional sales manager for a medical supply company. His job meant travel. Tuesday in Cincinnati, Thursday in Indianapolis, sometimes overnight in Louisville or Pittsburgh. I learned the names of hotels the way other wives learn the names of coworkers. For a long time, I trusted the rhythm of it. He left with a suitcase. He came home tired. I washed his shirts. He kissed Sophie on the forehead and asked if she had finished her homework. On Friday nights, we ordered pizza from the same place near the grocery store. Sophie always picked mushrooms off her slice and put them on Aaron's plate. He always pretended to complain, then ate them anyway. Those were the small things that made me believe we were safe. Marriage, I thought, was not supposed to feel dramatic every day. It was school drop-offs, dentist appointments, arguments over the thermostat, and falling asleep beside someone who knew exactly how you took your coffee. Aaron and I had been married 14 years. We met when I was 21 and working part-time at a diner while finishing community college. He came in with 2 friends after a basketball game, loud and bright, wearing a gray hoodie and a smile that made me forget what I was carrying. I had been a serious girl, careful, raised by a mother who counted coupons and a father who showed love by changing the oil in your car without saying much. Aaron felt easy. He made life seem less heavy. On our 3rd date, he took me to a county fair and won me a stuffed yellow duck from a ring toss booth. It was ugly and lopsided, but I kept it for years because he looked so proud handing it to me. When he proposed, it was in our first apartment, with laundry on the couch and rain tapping against the window. He did not make a speech. He just held out the ring and said, "I want every ordinary day with you." That line got me. Every ordinary day. I believed him. For years, maybe he believed himself too. The first crack came in a place so ordinary I almost missed it. A grocery receipt. I found it in the pocket of his navy jacket while checking laundry. It was from a store 40 minutes away, in a neighborhood he had no reason to visit. The receipt listed milk, strawberries, cough syrup, and a small chocolate cake. Nothing strange on its own, but Aaron had told me he was in Dayton that day, taking a client to lunch. When I asked him about it, he barely looked up from his phone. "Oh, I stopped there on the way back," he said. "For cough syrup?" He coughed once, like a performance. "Yeah, felt something coming on." I wanted to believe him, so I did. That is how some lies survive. Not because they are good, because the person hearing them is tired of being afraid. A few weeks later, I noticed he had started keeping his phone face down. He had never done that before. At night, he charged it on his side of the bed instead of the kitchen counter. When it buzzed, his eyes moved first. His hand followed. Sometimes he smiled at the screen, not a big smile, just a soft, private one that disappeared when I entered the room. I told myself it was work. Salespeople had clients. Clients had problems. Problems did not follow business hours. Then came the shirt. A pale green button-down I had never seen before. It was in his suitcase after a trip to Indianapolis, folded carefully under his dress pants. "New shirt?" I asked. He glanced at it and shrugged. "Emergency buy. Spilled coffee before a meeting." I touched the fabric. It was expensive. Too expensive for a panic purchase from a hotel shop. "Looks nice," I said. "Thanks." That was all. But later, when I hung it in the closet, I noticed one missing button near the cuff. Not torn off roughly, removed cleanly, like someone had taken it and kept it. I do not know why that unsettled me. Maybe because marriage is built out of small familiar things. The mugs in the cabinet, the shoes by the door, the smell of your spouse's shampoo. And this shirt felt like it came from a room I had never entered. Still, life kept moving. Sophie had school projects. My clinic changed software. My mother needed help after a minor knee surgery. There was always something practical to do, and practical things are useful when your heart wants to avoid questions. Then, one Thursday night, Aaron called to say he had to stay overnight in Cleveland. "Hospital client," he said. "Early meeting tomorrow." His voice sounded tired. "Okay," I said. "Drive safe." There was a pause. Then he said, "Hannah?" "Yes?" "I love you." It should have comforted me. Instead, it felt like he had said goodbye to something I could not see. The next morning, my clinic sent me to pick up files from a partner office near Riverside Memorial Hospital. It was raining hard, one of those cold spring rains that makes every parking lot look gray and tired. I had just stepped into the hospital lobby to ask directions when I saw Aaron's company logo on a sign near the East Wing. Medical equipment demonstration, Conference Room B. So he had been telling the truth. I remember feeling foolish, almost relieved. I bought a coffee from the lobby kiosk and was heading back toward the exit when I heard a voice behind me. "Excuse me, are you Hannah?" I turned. A nurse in blue scrubs was holding a clipboard. She looked kind, but uncertain. "Yes." Her face changed. "I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else." "That's okay." She hesitated. Then she glanced down at the clipboard and said softly, "Room 7 is down the hall, if you're looking for him." "Him?" Her cheeks colored. "I'm sorry, I really must have confused you." Before I could ask more, she walked away quickly. "Room 7, I should have left." I tell myself that now. I had no real reason to go down that hall. No invitation, no proof. Just a nurse's mistake, and a number that would later divide my life into before and after. But something inside me moved before my mind could stop it. I followed the hallway. Room 1, Room 3, Room 5, Room 7. The door was half open. Inside, a woman stood by the window, holding a sweater. She was about my age, maybe younger by a few years. Soft brown hair, pale cardigan, no makeup except smudged mascara under her eyes. She looked tired in the way people look when sleep has become a rumor. On the bed sat a little boy, maybe 7 years old, with a hospital bracelet on his wrist and a stuffed dinosaur tucked under one arm. And on the visitor chair beside him was Aaron's overnight bag. For a few seconds, my brain refused to understand what my eyes were seeing. Then the woman turned. She saw me. Her face went white. The boy looked up from his tablet and smiled. "Are you Dad's friend?" The word Dad entered the room quietly. It did not shout. It did not explode. It simply landed, and everything in me broke around it. The woman whispered, "You're Hannah." I looked at her hand. That was when I saw the ring. A thin gold band with a small row of tiny diamonds across the top. My ring. Not the same one, of course, but the same design, same setting, same delicate curve. The ring Aaron had told me he found in an old jewelry shop because it looked simple and honest. My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" I asked. The woman glanced at the boy, then stepped toward the door. "Can we talk in the hall?" "No," I said. My voice sounded strange, calm, too calm. The boy looked between us. The woman turned to him and said, "Eli, honey, put your headphones on for a minute." He obeyed immediately. That hurt too. The easy trust of a child used to adults managing the room around him. She stepped into the hallway and closed the door halfway behind her. "My name is Rebecca." I waited. She swallowed. "I'm Aaron's wife." There are sentences the body hears before the mind can protect itself. I laughed once. Not because anything was funny, because some part of me needed sound. "No," I said. Her eyes filled. "I'm sorry." "How long?" She closed her eyes. "Hannah." "How long?" 8 years. I stepped back as if she had touched me. 8 years. Sophie was 4 when it began. I thought of birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas mornings, Aaron teaching Sophie to ride her bike, Aaron holding my hand at my father's funeral, Aaron bringing me soup when I had the flu. 8 years. "Does he know I'm here?" I asked. "No, he's downstairs with the doctor." "The doctor?" Rebecca looked toward the room. "Eli has leukemia." The hallway tilted. For a moment, betrayal and pity collided so hard inside me that I could not separate them. The little boy in the room was sick. Aaron's son was sick. Aaron's other son. My husband had built an entire life where I did not exist, and inside that life was a child with a hospital bracelet and a stuffed dinosaur. I gripped the wall. Rebecca reached toward me, then stopped. "I didn't know about you at first," she said quickly. "Not for a long time." I stared at her. "He told me he was divorced. He said you and Sophie lived in another state, and he only saw her sometimes." "And you believed him?" "I was 26. My mother had just died. I wanted to believe someone was choosing me. It should not have mattered. But somehow, the honesty in her voice made her harder to hate. I heard footsteps behind us. Then Aaron turned the corner, carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. He stopped. Everything stopped with him. His eyes went from me to Rebecca to the half-open door. Coffee spilled over his hand, but he did not move. "Hannah," he said. Just my name. As if my name was the only piece of truth he could still recognize. I looked at him for a long moment. This man I had slept beside for 14 years. This man whose socks I washed, whose jokes I knew, whose shoulder I had leaned on in church pews and pediatric waiting rooms. "You have a son," I said. He closed his eyes. Not in surprise, in defeat. That told me enough. I walked past him. He followed me into the stairwell. "Hannah, please." The door closed behind us, muffling the hospital sounds. I turned to him. "Do not ask me to be quiet." I wasn't. "Do not." He looked smaller in that stairwell. His tie was loose, his hair damp from rain, his face gray with exhaustion. "I wanted to tell you," he said. That line almost made me hate him. "No, Aaron, you wanted to keep everything." His mouth trembled. He sat down on the stairs like his body had finally stopped holding him up. "I know." "How does this happen?" I asked. "How does a person wake up every day and lie to two families?" He stared at the floor. "It didn't start as a family." I waited. "It started when we were separated." I frowned. "We were never separated." His eyes lifted to mine. "Emotionally, Hannah." The cruelty of that word made my chest tighten. "Don't you dare make loneliness sound like permission." He nodded quickly. "You're right. I know. I'm not saying that." But he had said enough. He told me pieces, not the whole story, not then. Rebecca had been a client coordinator at a hospital in Dayton. They met during a hard year in our marriage, one I remembered differently. Sophie was little. I was working part-time and caring for my father, who was dying from kidney failure. Aaron said he felt invisible. I had been too tired to notice. That part hurt because it was probably true. Then Rebecca got pregnant. He panicked. He promised he would tell me. He did not. Instead, he rented an apartment under a company arrangement, told Rebecca he traveled because of custody issues, told me he traveled because of clients. 2 calendars, 2 closets, 2 women folding the same man's shirts. "And Eli?" I asked. Aaron covered his face. "I love him." The answer came too fast. Too true. I thought of Sophie. "Does he know about her?" Aaron shook his head. "No?" "Of course not." "Hannah, he's sick." There it was. The reason I could not simply explode and leave scorched earth behind me. A child was sick. A child who had done nothing wrong. I looked through the small window in the stairwell door and saw Rebecca's shadow move near room 7. "When were you going to tell me?" He did not answer. "When he died?" I asked quietly. "When he recovered? When you ran out of lies?" Aaron started crying then. I had seen him cry only twice before, when Sophie was born and when his mother died. This crying did not move me. Not because I was cold, because something inside me had stepped away from him and would not come back. "I can't do this right now," I said. "Hannah, please don't tell Sophie yet." I laughed again, smaller this time. "You still think you get to manage the truth." Then I walked out. I drove home in rain so heavy the windshield wipers could barely keep up. At a red light, I looked at my left hand on the steering wheel. My ring looked ordinary. That was the cruelest part. It had not changed. The gold still caught the gray light. The tiny diamonds still sat in a neat row. It still looked like love, even after I knew it had a twin. When I got home, Sophie was at school. The house was quiet. A cereal bowl sat in the sink. Aaron's old sneakers were by the back door. His jacket hung on the chair like he had every right to come back and put it on again. I walked through each room slowly. Bedroom, kitchen, hallway. Sophie's room with soccer cleats near the closet and posters on the wall. How do you tell a child that her father has another child? How do you explain that her family was not broken that morning, and by dinner it would be? I did not know, so I did the only thing I could do. I called my sister Kate. She answered on the second ring. "What's wrong?" I had not said a word yet. That is what sisters are for. When I told her, she drove over immediately. She did not give advice. She did not say, "I knew something was off." Even though later I learned she had wondered for years why Aaron traveled so much. She sat with me at the kitchen table and placed her hand over mine. "What do you need right now?" I don't know. That's okay. I have to tell Sophie. Not alone. That evening, Aaron came home before Sophie did. He looked like he had aged 10 years since morning. I was standing by the sink. Kate sat at the table, arms crossed. Aaron saw her and understood this was not going to be a private negotiation. I want to talk to my wife, he said. Kate stood. She is talking. He looked at me. Hannah, you can pack a bag. His face collapsed. Please. Sophie will be home in 20 minutes. You will not be here when she arrives. She's my daughter. Yes, I said. And you will not use that word today as a shield. He nodded slowly, like every movement hurt. He packed in our bedroom while I stood in the doorway. Not because I wanted to watch him suffer, because I no longer trusted closed doors. When he opened his dresser drawer, I saw another clue I had missed. A small pharmacy bag tucked beneath his undershirts. Inside was a bottle of children's fever reducer, unopened. For Eli, probably. Something about that tiny bottle broke through the numbness. He had been carrying both lives in the same drawer. Sophie came home at 4:12. I remember because the kitchen clock ticked louder than usual. She dropped her backpack near the door, saw my face, and stopped. Mom! Kate went to the living room. I sat with Sophie at the kitchen table and told her the truth as gently as truth can be told when it is ugly. I did not tell her everything. I told her her father had made choices that hurt our family deeply. I told her he had another child. I told her none of it was her fault. At first, she did not understand. Then she did. Her eyes filled slowly. Do I have a brother? The question almost destroyed me. Yes, I said. Is he little? He's 7. She looked toward the window. Does he know about me? No. She nodded like she was trying to act older than 12. Then she said, Is he okay? I could not lie. He's sick. Sophie covered her mouth. And in that moment, I saw the part of her that was still pure. Hurt, confused, betrayed, but still able to worry about a child she had never met. That night, she slept in my bed. Or tried to. Neither of us slept much. Around midnight, she whispered, Do you hate him? I stared at the ceiling. I don't know yet. Do you hate the boy? No, I said immediately. Never. She was quiet. Then she said, Good. The next weeks moved like a storm through paperwork. Lawyer, bank accounts, temporary custody schedule. Aaron staying at a hotel. Phone calls from his parents. Phone calls from mine. Everyone asking questions I barely had the strength to answer. Rebecca called me once. I almost ignored it. Then I answered. I'm not calling to defend him, she said. Good. I'm calling because Eli's treatment is starting Monday. Aaron said Sophie knows. She does. There was a pause. Eli doesn't. I closed my eyes. What do you want from me? Nothing, she said. I just thought you should know before Aaron decides how to say it. That was when I understood something painful. Rebecca did not trust him either, not anymore. We were not friends. We were not allies exactly. But we were 2 women standing in the wreckage of the same man's lie, each holding a child close. A month later, Sophie asked if she could meet Eli. I said no at first. Too fast. She looked at me across the breakfast table. Mom, he's my brother. He's also sick, and this is complicated. I know. You don't have to carry this. I'm not carrying Dad's mistake, she said. I just want to know him. I wanted to protect her from more pain, but I also knew protection could become another form of control if fear was the only thing guiding it. So after therapy sessions, careful conversations, and more tears than I can count, we arranged a meeting at Riverside Memorial. Room 7 again. I hated that room, but Sophie walked in, holding a small Lego set she had bought with her own money. Eli sat on the bed, thinner than before, wearing a knit cap and watching cartoons without sound. Rebecca stood near the window. Aaron was there too, but he stayed back. Sophie stepped forward. "Hi," she said. "I'm Sophie." Eli looked at her. "Are you my sister?" Sophie glanced at me, then back at him. "Yeah," she said softly. "I think so." He smiled. Not a big smile. "Enough." She handed him the Lego set. "I heard you like dinosaurs." His face lit up. For the next hour, they built a tiny plastic T-Rex on the hospital tray table, while 3 adults stood around them with broken hearts and no script. I watched Sophie laugh at something Eli said, and I felt anger and grief and tenderness all at once. That is the thing no one tells you about betrayal. It does not arrive alone. Sometimes it brings innocent people with it. Sometimes the thing that hurts you most also gives your child someone to love. Aaron and I divorced the following spring. There was no dramatic courtroom scene, no revenge speech, no satisfaction that made everything even. Just signatures, division of property, a parenting plan, a quiet walk to my car afterward, where I sat for 10 minutes before I could turn the key. Aaron apologized many times. Some apologies sounded sincere. Some sounded desperate. All of them came too late to rebuild the marriage, but not too late to become a better father if he chose to. That was the line I gave him. "You don't get to be my husband anymore," I told him. "But Sophie still deserves a father who tells the truth." He nodded. "I know." This time, I believed he wanted to. Wanting is not the same as doing, but it was a beginning. Eli's treatment took almost 2 years. There were good months and terrifying ones. Birthdays in hospital rooms. Thanksgiving dinners packed into containers. Sophie making get-well cards with terrible jokes. Rebecca and I learning how to sit beside each other without needing the relationship to have a name. One afternoon, while Eli slept, she and I sat in the hospital cafeteria drinking bad coffee. She twisted her ringless finger around nothing. "I used to think I stole your life," she said. I looked at her. "You didn't steal it." "He gave me pieces that weren't his to give." That was the closest either of us came to forgiveness for a long time. After the divorce, I stayed in the house for Sophie's sake. At first, every room felt haunted by Aaron's absence. His side of the closet, his empty chair, the garage shelf where he kept fishing gear he rarely used. Then slowly, the house became ours. Sophie painted her room a soft green. I replaced the dining table with one from a flea market. Kate helped me plant hydrangeas along the fence. I took down the wedding photos, not angrily, just carefully. I put them in a box and placed it in the attic. Not everything needs to be thrown away to stop owning you. 3 years after I walked into room 7, Eli was declared in remission. Sophie cried harder than anyone. Aaron cried too. Rebecca hugged her son so tightly, he complained he could not breathe. I stood near the doorway, feeling like a witness to a miracle that had grown out of something terrible. Later that evening, Sophie and I stopped for ice cream on the way home. She was 15 by then, taller, sharper, carrying more wisdom than I wanted her to need. "Do you ever wish you hadn't gone down that hallway?" she asked. I thought about lying, then I didn't. "Sometimes," she nodded. "Me too." We sat in the car, eating melting ice cream from paper cups. Then she said, "But then I wouldn't know, Eli." "No," I said. "You wouldn't." She looked out the windshield. "I hate what Dad did." "So do I. But I don't hate my life." That sentence stayed with me. I don't hate my life. For a while, I had believed betrayal ruined everything it touched. Marriage, memory, family, trust. But Sophie was teaching me something I had not learned yet. Some things survive differently than we planned. Not whole, not untouched, but alive. I am 41 now. Sophie is in college. Eli is 12 and obsessed with space. Rebecca moved into a townhouse 10 minutes from Aaron, not because of him, but because Eli wanted both parents close. Aaron and I are polite, sometimes even kind. We sit in the same school gyms, hospital follow-ups, and birthday parties. We do not pretend the past was smaller than it was, but we do not feed it every day either. Last Christmas, Sophie and Eli insisted all of us attend his school choir concert together. So there we were. Me, Aaron, Rebecca, Sophie, and Eli's grandparents, all squeezed into a row of metal folding chairs while children sang slightly off-key under cafeteria lights. At one point, Aaron passed me a program. Our hands touched briefly. Nothing moved in me. No love. No hatred, only the strange quiet of a wound that had finally closed. During the last song, I looked down at my hand. No ring, just my fingers folded in my lap. For years, I had thought that ring was proof I had been chosen. Then I thought it was proof I had been fooled. Now I know it was only a ring, a small circle of gold that carried whatever story I placed on it. The real proof of my life was not on my hand. It was in my daughter's laugh. In the house I rebuilt. In the boundaries I learned to keep. In the way I walked into room 7 as one person and walked out as another, even though I did not know it yet. People ask sometimes how I forgave. The truth is, I did not forgive all at once, and I did not forgive everything. I forgave enough to stop carrying Aaron into every room with me. I forgave enough to let Sophie love her brother without making her feel guilty for it. I forgave enough to speak to Rebecca like a human being instead of a symbol of my pain. But I also remembered, because remembering is not the enemy of healing. Sometimes remembering is how we learn not to abandon ourselves again. The wife in room 7 was not my enemy. She was another woman holding a sweater, a hospital bracelet, and a life built on half a truth. I thought I had found the person who ruined my marriage. But the real truth was harder and quieter. Aaron had ruined it long before either of us saw the same ring. And still, from that broken place, something unexpected grew. Not the family I wanted, not the family I would have chosen, but one with enough honesty to let two children love each other without being punished for the sins of adults. That is what I believe now. Love does not always look like staying married. Sometimes love looks like telling the truth. Sometimes it looks like leaving with dignity. Sometimes it looks like sitting in a hospital room beside someone you never wanted to know because an innocent child is building a dinosaur and your daughter is smiling for the first time in weeks. I lost the life I thought I had in room 7, but I also found the line I would never cross again. I would never beg someone to choose me honestly. I would never mistake a familiar house for a safe one, and I would never let betrayal turn me into someone my daughter could not recognize. That day, I saw another wife wearing my ring. For a moment, I thought it meant I had been replaced, but I understand it differently now. I had not been replaced. I had been released from a lie. And sometimes freedom first arrives looking exactly like heartbreak,